I'm Whitney Stevens.
And I don't really feel like Yo-Yo Blackfire today, but hopefully this episode helps me recenter.
Regardless,
this is Unstable. So,
I feel like I need to let you...
I'm going to start this episode.
Okay.
Okay, so I am, for those of you who know me and for those of you who've been getting to know me by listening to the podcast, I guess I have a saying, right? I say all the time that some people struggle with their emotions, and I have the capacity to be empathetic, apathetic, or completely sociopathic. And in this new year, we have had a little Freaky Friday.
Yes.
Where I am very emotional, and it very well could be contributed to my sobriety. I feel my feels instead of smoking and not having to deal with them.
It's possible.
But I have been a little less sexual and a little more emotional, a little bit more intimately vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And this past week has got me all up in my feelings, and so we decided to shuffle around our pre-scheduled episodes and be open, honest, candid, and vulnerable today. And we're going to talk about relationships. I just want to say I'm going to say lots of things today, and none of them are not true, but they're also me being in my feelings and taking this opportunity to have an intimate conversation with my best friend.
They're going to be very raw emotions.
I know that we've said this before, but today might be the day that I cry on the pod. So
we might both cry on the pod today.
Let's start off with that there are lots of different kinds of relationships that we have in life. And we have talked plenty about how we do not feel that one person can necessarily be your everything.
Correct. I don't think it's healthy to try to make somebody
I need to be there for myself 24/7. I can't be your everything.
Right.
I can show up for you and you can always count on me. But
does one person probably have the capacity to be everything
it's too
for
much.
Somebody.
It's too much. I think that it comes from an archaic religious perspective where you were born to pair up, with procreate, and then that was it.
To do. Yeah.
And I mean, I grew up that way. That was the belief, right? I grew up very religious, very Jewish, and that was definitely what we did, right?
And at the base of things, we are animals.
Absolutely, and humans are...
There's very few animals that can do that. I think penguins are the only ones.
Yeah, most animals do end up pairing up. I think that there's a term for that, but I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I am very fortunate to have a lot of different kinds of amazing relationships in my life, whether it's a complicated but really positive and growing relationship with my father or my family. I have some amazing friends around me, not just Whitney, not just, Tayshawn behind the camera. I have some really cool coworkers that we have really good relationships with. I have drag family. I have sisters and brothers that, have varying levels of intimacy and connection. But we all know that I am not one to date, and I'm not really one who's ever super been interested in a relationship. We did talk in last episode about how there had been someone that I was interested in having as my first boyfriend, and I actually said that there's someone that I'm currently interested in seeing and talking to, and that situation has brought us here today.
Yeah. In that aspect, that's where we get to the Freaky Friday aspect, because I have always... And I mean always.
Literally, we've talked about this. Her favorite cereal is monogamy.
Yeah. I'm a serial monogamist.
It's true. But lately I
have distanced myself from that recently. Very much so.
I know that we're not filming with Scotty anymore, but we really need to do a Freaky Friday photo shoot with him. We're absolutely doing it. Coming soon to a Patreon near you.
Yes. But I honestly have always been in a relationship, which is one of the unique qualities that we can have discussions about, because you've literally never had a boyfriend.
Yeah, and I've only really,
wild.
When I was in middle school and stuff, I would have little girlfriends and girlfriends for little bits and periods and stuff. And I actually was thinking about it this morning, and there are a few interesting stories that I'm going to be vulnerable and share. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just get into it.
Sure.
I literally had a girlfriend at one point who approached me, and she wanted to be with me, whatever. We were super, like, close. We talked all the time. We would, like, it was super cute. There's actually pictures on my Facebook, whatever. And then when, I don't know, at some point, I don't remember all the details, because the thing that I do with my trauma in my life is I move on and I try to forget about it, which isn't always healthy.
Right.
Because it stores internally. And they say that the human body takes, like, 10 years to process trauma, and then you kind of revisit it, and you're either able to let it go or you store it again.
Right.
And, I mean, maybe that's the case. I'm 25, right?
I mean, it's taken us a long time to, like, really open up about that kind of stuff. Like,
no, we've
had episodes where, like, we learn things about each other that we never knew.
These are some of my...
both kind of do that.
Yeah, some of my favorite episodes are when we talk about things that we're both having to open up and, like, learn things about each other and ourselves. Which we're going to
do today.
Yeah, so, I mean, but the one time I had a serious relationship was throughout high school. When I was 13 years old, I met someone, and I spent a year courting her. And is
that a religious thing, or is that a personal
that's
thing?
Just me. I mean, like, I know that it doesn't fit the persona that I've publicly developed, but I actually have a song that I wrote, and I was really infatuated with this idea of, like, fame and how, like, media perceives and puts someone out. And so the song sings, like, kind of all these ridiculous phrases. I sing about, like, that boy's an icebreaker, a cool shaker, a star maker.
YouTube channel?
Oh my God, we're not doing that. No, it's not. No, but in the song I'm like, that boy's an icebreaker, a cool shaker, a star maker. That boy could rule the world. But then I sing, I'm a picture perfect, pornographic Prince Charming. And I think that's kind of accurate.
We have shirts that say that?
Yeah. But that's true, and that's how I feel. I'm actually a very, very romantic kind of person.
I absolutely can.
When I care about someone, they know it. I spoil them. It's tangible, right? It's my mission in life to rebuild the human connection by breeding love and spreading compassion and radiating positivity.
Right.
So I do that with strangers. I do that. Last night I hosted bingo and I connected with strangers, and I'm sure I'm flirtatious and I'm sexual, but that's not necessarily personal. But we all know that I'm someone who, I am known for being shocking, right? I say ridiculous things. I have no filter, and part of me having...
Part of that is your coping mechanism, though.
Yeah, well, and so between my coping mechanism, but also, like, part of that is, like, when you knock someone off their guard. I recently auditioned for Drag Race. Right. I don't think I'm going to get on, so I feel comfortable talking about it.
We've talked about reasons why.
Yes, we talked about some of the reasons why, but I think part of it was also, like, I have a tendency to, because I know so much of who I am, I forget that who I know I am on the inside and who I am on the outside are just finally now starting to fuse as the same person.
Uh-huh.
And so when I was meeting with my high school mentor, who you can't see my legs, but if you look in our promo image, I have a tattoo of a cloud on my calf. And that's for my high school mentor who helped me through some of my darkest times. She's the one who taught me, nothing magical happens at 18.
Right.
And that as you go through life, things don't necessarily get easier. It's that you have more experiences to compare them to, and you can handle them.
Yeah. You have more tools.
And something she said to me was, where is the yo-yo that we all know? Where's the yo-yo that says things that knock people off their guard, because what it does is it makes you vulnerable. Right? And that's something that I do. And I
wouldn't say where is that person. That person is absolutely still here.
100%. But in my answers in my audition, it wasn't really in there.
Okay.
Unfortunately, which I think is what's
in the day to day. It's absolutely.
And that was the disconnect.
Yeah.
But just okay. So, but part of that is me also being vulnerable. Right? Which I'm finally doing, and this podcast has been helping me do a lot, obviously.
Same.
I mean, one of our favorite things lately is that our friends get drunk and they accidentally admit that they listen to the podcast.
Right, because they don't want to admit that they might think it's interesting.
So, I mean, I'm a romantic person, and I love love. I love love. I'm one of those people who believes that the greatest thing... This might be the name of the episode. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. Yeah. That might be the name of this episode.
It's my favorite quote from my favorite movie.
From Nature Boy. It's the song that they use in your favorite movie.
Yeah.
And I really, really feel that way. And so, because I've been hurt, not just in my, relationships with people, but, in my life, I've been hurt, I became cold. And I'm a very hot and cold person in general. I'm an Aries, Pisces, Aries. So, like, I'm very, very hard and hot and cold, but I'm also really, really tender and soft, and I'm really loving and nurturing. And when I am loving and nurturing, I'm very vulnerable. And lately, I have been very vulnerable. Okay, so let's talk about our relationship history. I talked about how I dated a few girls in middle school, and I said I courted someone for a year, and we were together not just all through high school. We were high school sweethearts, and that person will always be my best friend. And the reason that we didn't work out is my own fault. And part of it is obviously that we were so young.
Right.
So young. Like, and we knew that. We knew we're so young that, like, we haven't lived life yet. And you need to live life before you can settle down, because you need to know yourself and have experiences. Mm-hmm. So I know we've talked a little bit about it, but what about you? What about your dating and relationship experience? What's your relationship with relationships?
We've always talked about I am absolutely like a monogamous. I mean, in my head, I'm built to be monogamous.
Okay, I will say this. Yes, in my head and I understand. I think that's a big thing I struggle with. Is I don't want to be pretentious and say I'm smart, but I can rationalize almost anything.
Right.
Because most of the time there is an answer for your questions, and I understand why monogamy doesn't necessarily logically work, because you can't make one person your everything, but in my heart, I am a monogamous.
I feel like I'm built to
if I'm gonna commit to someone, and there's a difference,
but I'm
right?
also a realist.
Like,
so,
right. So more than one thing can be true.
I understand that maybe that's not going to be a factor in my life.
But also, I do believe that there's a way to, like, be in a monogamous relationship and still have intimate and maybe even open sexual type experiences with other people. And that's something that I have to learn and figure out. And when you find someone that actually cares enough about you and that you're connecting with and developing a relationship with, you guys care enough to figure that out together.
Right.
Even if it's uncomfortable and not easy. And that I will say that the partner that I had for so much of my life, and that I will always hold near and dear to my heart, and that I look forward to continuing to rebuild our friendship, that is one thing that they provided for me. They taught me so many things about gender and sexuality and identity and perspective and moderate, just so much. And that's what a partner is.
Yeah. I mean, I have that kind of same situation. I honestly don't really talk about, like, how I ended up here very often, but I came here with a long-term partner from Seattle. We had been together for like 4 years, and he graduated from the UW and got a job down here, and that's how I ended up here. He was like a very big part of my life, like from the time I was like 21 until he ended up leaving, but we came here together, and he got a job, and he was like incorporated into my family. Like, he was Uncle Jason. I usually don't say names on the podcast, but it just happened.
I think it's fine.
And like, we came down here, we moved together, and like, it was a hard transition for him because he was so close to his family and being away from them. And I was not the best person at that time. Like, I did some shitty things, and like, one day I like just came home to an empty apartment, and like everything that I owned was gone, and all that was left was my dog in a cage and like one chair or something, and like I never heard from him again. Like, I never got closure. I never heard from him like one time again. And it was rough. Like, I was here alone, and I had to like pay my rent here in freaking Ahwatukee by myself. Like, who wants to?
Is that also when you lived in Ahwatukee and you would see Scotty Kirby holding Coco St. James' head? Call back to season 1.
Coco St. James was my neighbor, yeah. But like, yeah, I never like really got closure in that situation, but that was like a big part of my like early gay life was with him, and like he was incorporated with my family, and
we were very in my relationship, I mean,
And
obviously
in
we
all
were
fairness,
young.
he had every right to fucking ditch me.
In all fairness, she
she
stuck with me and let me live with her longer than she ever should have. I don't know, but than she ever should have.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. But was that your first serious relationship?
That was my like very first like serious. That was like 4 years almost.
We were literally from 13 until, and we had like a year or two where we didn't talk just after high school because like of everything, but we did end up like kind of reconnecting and like until and she's how I got into drag. So like from 13 to almost 23, like that was my life.
I've sadly reached out on social media like multiple times over the years to like try to talk and like get closure, probably selfishly. He's had nothing to do with it, has not ever responded to anything.
Yeah.
He's moved on, and
I think that part of us being realists is that even though it personally or intimately is not comfortable or satisfying, like we can rationalize it. We do understand
right
where it comes from, and I think that's something that I do take pride in. Is like at the end of the day, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm a grown man. Like when I fuck up, like I will reap what I sow. Okay, don't let this hair and these nice costumes custom made by Gio Johnson fool you.
Right.
I'm a grown, non-binary man, and I will own up when I fuck up, and I will accept the consequences.
Speaking of owning up when you fuck up, I have to say something.
Oh God, I'm kind of scared.
I did make a false statement there. I said like we never talked again. That's false. I think that we started talking again and like sort of reconnecting. And then I met who would become my husband for 10 years. And I think that was probably the final straw where he was like, fuck you, I'm never talking to you again. Which absolutely makes sense. Because I was like, oh, we're talking. And then I was like 2 months later, I'm like, I'm getting married.
Okay, we've talked about the fact that you've been married. And congratulations on, being in a new era of your life. Not to discredit the time that you guys had together or the life that you guys shared, but congratulations on feeling strong and confident and being able to move on.
I do. I honestly do.
I know that's finally at all new levels even than it's been, which has already been in the past. But
yeah, I'm actually I'm really proud of I was able to have a relationship for I believe nearly 12 years. 11 years, I don't know, 2009 up until 2020, so 11 years. I'm super proud that I was able to do, not many people can sustain.
And you guys did a lot of amazing things together.
For 11 years.
You guys did a lot of amazing things together. You're about to retake over an event that you guys basically curated and promoted together years ago at other venues.
When I first met, he started it, and I just came into it because we were together. And we're attending it every day. I still have tons of very cute pictures from when we first started being together. They come up all the time. Yeah.
When you were orange.
When I was orange and a lesbian.
Well, now you're pink and a lesbian.
Yeah, but I'm very proud of that. So I want to make that clear. That is something I consider an accomplishment in my life, that I was able to have that sort of relationship for that long. And by all means, it was not easy. There was a lot of bullshit on both ends. But it is, reassuring to me to know that you can make it work as long as you're willing to put in the effort. Because it requires a ton of work daily.
Not to interrupt you, but that's a big thing. I think the difference I think that you can love someone instantly. And you can love someone you don't know. But to be in love with someone, that's when love becomes an action verb. To be in love, it's an effort. It's a constant,
it is
attentive effort, and not just. First of all, something that's hurt me in the past few years. That when I am interested in someone, that I have to realize is a red flag. I think that I need to be more attentive to, is when someone cares about me, they will message me.
Yeah.
They will think about me.
Yeah.
They will be not just excited to see me in person and not just respond to me, but they'll think of me. And I had a Rebbitzin. A Rebbitzin is a rabbi's wife, right?
Okay.
So the rabbi and the Rebbitzin, and she taught me, Yehoshua, we don't deserve anything in life. We earn it. We earn things in life. And I say that in so many songs. I have a song I wrote, it's called I Believe, and I say all these things, and I say, I don't believe that you deserve, but that you get what you earn. And that's not necessarily negative. It's also positive.
Right.
And it's just real. And I know that when I care about someone, I give so much, and I'm worthy of receiving. Okay, so like being worthy, like that's a big thing, because currently, obviously, like with the things that I'm going through, and like the past couple of years, the things that I had been going through, the biggest thing that the biggest red flag I do recognize is that there's no excuse for me to feel like, what's wrong with me? Don't I deserve this?
Right.
Aren't I worth it? Because
I
do know that if there's one thing that we know about me, it's that I know who I am, and I do love myself, and I know that I'm worth it.
No one loves Yo-Yo more than Yo-Yo.
And like I know that
I never want that to be perceived like
it's not negative. I don't think it's negative. I think it's positive.
It's a very
and something I've
thing.
always said to myself. I know RuPaul says if you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love somebody else?
Right.
But like I believe, like I say this as like entertainers, right? We had an issue before the pandemic where we were being like so catty and like derogative in joking ways to each other that people started talking that way to us and about us.
And we're allowing.
And that's not right, because we are setting the tone. You set the tone for the respect that you give and get.
And I had a full breakdown about it because it was
becoming not acceptable. And so we made an active decision, and especially when you moved back after being in Washington, we said, we literally told our friends, this is not acceptable, and we will not. And actually, let's be honest, those people are not really our very close friends anymore.
They're not.
I will always love them.
Right.
But they're not our close friends, and I know that because when they see me, their first instinct is to try to tear me down.
Yeah.
And like, if you're my friend, you're not going to try to tear me down. Like, I have my own demons, and life is going to try to knock me down. You're supposed to be my friend, which means that you're supposed to help me through that. Like, you're supposed to support me and lift me up.
We have our own little like jokes with each other that are like.
And I'm happy for people to be a part of the joke. But there's a line.
Yes.
And which is crazy because I'm one who doesn't believe in boundaries.
And also, we fucking build each other up all the time.
Absolutely.
Huge part of our friendship and our relationship is that we build each other up and we push each other. Like, we're always pushing each other to be better, even when we're like on the verge of collapse.
Not to even further break that fourth wall, but we do have, as you know, we have our son Tayshawn behind the camera. And one of the first few times that he came over and hung out with us, you were having a tough night and in your feelings and being really negative to yourself. And neither of us were allowing it. We like would not have it. We literally were like, absolutely not. Let's talk this through. And you were still not having it. I'm sure he remembers. And that's just because that's not good for you. I wish.
Whiskey, baby.
You know that? You know the worst part about me not being. You know the worst part about me not being a huge drinker is that I have to remember everything. And like my memory may not be great, and I smoke a lot of weed, but like I'm not great with names, but like an elephant never forgets. An elephant never forgets.
Well,
but okay, let's get back to what we were talking about. Let's reel it in a little bit.
All right.
So you had your relationship. You moved here. You met your ex-husband.
Yes.
I'm curious. I just talked about when I'm getting in a relationship, and this is when we get back to me, we'll see how relevant this really is again. But like I'm not opposed to like a courting period. You know, getting to know each other, really deciding to be in a relationship. How quickly did you guys end up together, and how quickly did you guys end up to get married?
So from the immediate, we were like attached to each other for sure.
Which I'm not
actually used to like make comments like when people ask is we never spent 24 hours apart for the first year and a half or almost 2 years of our relationship, like ever. Like that was never a thing. Like he came over that night we met at Amsterdam. Thanks Amsterdam, peace, rest in peace. Loved that bar. Anyway.
I didn't know it.
He came over that night, and literally from that first day forward, we never spent time apart for the first, like, I think it was almost 2 years. He proposed to me after 2 months, I believe. I said yes. Not the most romantic proposal. He's gonna watch this, but
Yeah, but he won't admit that he watched.
we were both drunk and we like got out of a cab and he proposed to me and in my bedroom and okay, actually when I say it, it sounds more romantic. And gave me like a ring that he had worn forever as a promise to himself that he was going to like find somebody. And I wore that, and my family was pissed because I posted on Facebook that I was engaged before I told anyone personally. But then we like waited, I think like 2 or 3 years. So we got married in 2012. This was 2009. When we
in New
met.
York, right?
Yeah, we got married in Manhattan.
Okay, so here's my thing. I really do believe that you know immediately when you're connected to someone. The problem then for me that I've discovered is that part of why I'm okay with a courting period, as I refer to it, is that I want it to be an attachment, but I don't want it to be codependency.
I don't think we were codependent, honestly.
I will say I knew you guys when you were together, vaguely, obviously, because I'm fresh in your life still.
Right.
But I don't think you guys were necessarily codependent. I think even still you guys have a healthy relationship.
You saw us probably at our worst, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw you at the end.
Yeah. At the beginning, shit. He was my everything. Like, he was my everything. Like, we were both each other's everything. I don't think he would say anything different. I spent the majority of my adult life with that person. Literally, like, my adult life has been spent with that person. So, like, but the thing is, like, people change. Like, we both grow. And we grew in different directions. And,
that's okay.
and it's fine. Like, and that's, honestly, I think we both are in better places because we're accepting the fact that we're very two different people now. Like, he has his own thing, I have my own thing, and it could never coexist again. Like, it shouldn't have coexisted probably for the last couple years of the relationship. But there's always gonna be that, like, he is one of my human beings. Like, I will absolutely do anything for that person. If something ever happens that they needed me, it's happening. I don't care if people disagree with it or think I shouldn't do it or whatever, I'm doing it. Like, that's just how it is. I spent every day with this person for 12 years, and there's not a lot of people that can say they've done that. And no matter what it is, I have their back, like, 100%. And I still am, like, obviously dealing with working through my emotions as far as the relationship and, like, moving on and how I navigate a relationship again, because it's hard. And it's still hard when I see the person because it's like I still have that, like, pull. And it's not because I want to be with them again, it's because of all the experiences I've had with them, and it's, like, hard that I'm not a part of those experiences anymore. And that, I am worried that it'll never happen again for me.
I understand that. I mean, I'll be honest, I still believe that, like, when I get to the person that I know I'm supposed to be, and, like, when I'm better and healed and right, like, maybe it could happen again. But, like, that's not necessarily realistic. And that's not a fair expectation to put on another person either. But, I mean, like, there is a part of me that feels that way because of how strong our connection has been and because of, you know, all the time we spent together. And that's for sure. I definitely yo-yosiate with that feeling of, you know, what if it doesn't happen again? And I mean, as we've seen in my behavior, I almost reject the opportunity.
Right.
I mean, I've had opportunities to date people, and if I'm gonna date you, I need to really feel like I can live. Like, if I'm gonna really be in a relationship with you, like, we can be friends and we can be intimate emotionally or we can be intimate physically. But, like, if I'm gonna commit to you, I need to see you not just in my life right now, but you need to fit into the future that I've always known is the reality I am developing.
Right.
Because if you don't, this is actually a really intimate song because I keep bringing up my music. But we have a very dear friend who is actually going to make an appearance on the podcast. And it wasn't intimate in that way, but like when we had a fight, I wrote a song and I talked about I didn't know how you'd impact my future. I guess I knew that I would fuck this up. All right, so real quick, we do actually have a question from the Peanut Gallery. So let's hear that and add that to the conversation real quick, too.
Our son is now the Peanut Gallery.
Well, so my question is more earlier when you were talking about, sometimes when you first meet somebody, there's that initial, like, reaction of, like, you guys connect. But then there's also some people you meet who, when they first meet you, they put you through scenarios where you are, like, traumatized together in a sense. Or you trauma dump, and it creates this unhealthy, like, scenario together. How do you guys feel on that and navigating that?
Okay.
Okay. So the question reads:
This is not a pageant.
What's the difference between having an immediate connection with someone and meeting someone who then
shares your trauma, or has
either shares your trauma or uses trauma-like behavior to
bond you,
to almost get you.
right?
So this is actually very, very relevant to turning the conversation back to me, because for the past couple years I was very, very I don't even want to say infatuated, but I was like obsessed with my best friend, and they were in an era of their life. They're not in that anymore. I would like to give them some credit, but that is definitely how they behaved. That is for sure. We for sure had like an immediate connection. That's undeniable, because you yourself were the one who were like, are you guys together now?
Yeah.
But I would say that trauma definitely brings people together, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because you meet people in your life to help you heal, and certainly then they add their own elements. But I mean, I think that that's something that you just need to learn how to discover and notice as a red flag, is that, is this person, again, adding something to my life?
A value add.
Or are they using something or an experience or me as part of an experience?
Right.
Which again, let's get really, really real. We're getting ready today, and we talked about how today is the day that the podcast becomes current, because for the first season, we filmed several episodes at a time in chunks, and they didn't come out for months later.
Right.
So even between the time that we talked about things,
we had changed.
Let's just use a really like basic example. We filmed Feather Duster, which was our episode about jobs.
Right.
And we talked about how you were notorious for not working.
A job.
And by the time it came out, we had like several jobs.
Right.
But today we're talking about relationships, and part of it is, again, as we talked about, because I'm feeling really vulnerable because of a situation that I've put myself in, and I mean, I'm gonna be really candid about it. I met a boy on Friendsgiving just a couple months ago, and as soon as I saw him, I sat down next to him on the couch, I did my yo-yo thing, like we were talking, we exchanged numbers, flirty, found out our positions, like literally did the things, you do when you meet someone and you want to hook up with them or you want to vibe with them or whatever. But then shortly afterwards, I got a job that he also worked at, and he made it clear, and I agree, because I also don't shit where I eat.
Right.
He said I don't sleep with or date people that I work with. And being me, I did not just take that and say, okay, this is done. And now we have continued to kind of talk and vibe and whatever, but realistically, it's just me keeping myself in an unhealthy situation because
you're the only one putting in any effort.
It certainly feels that way, and
It's not feels that way, that is that way.
Yeah, and And it's upsetting and it hurts because, like, why are you, like, stringing me along? Why are you playing me? Like, why are you letting me, like, do all of this and giving me the hope and feeling and whatever that, like, there's a chance when, like, realistically, neither of us are leaving our job anytime soon, and that's not going to change. And the proof in that, even though I would like to believe, like, I often say, like, I'm a hopeless romantic in a hopeless world.
Right.
And as much as I want to believe that that's going to change,
right.
realistically it's not. And the proof in that, I mean, literally last Friday at my other job, I got told by you that you're going home with some other boy. And then to top it off, I had to watch you sucking face with him on the patio, to the point where my other coworkers literally messaged me after work to make sure I was okay because I was so visibly upset. I do not cry a lot. Up until recently, there was one, maybe 2 times that you've seen me cry, and it was often related to my very, very unstable and, I mean, suicidal mental health issues. But I cried. I'm still hurt. I'm hurt because it's not right and it's not fair. And in my head, I literally, last night even, caught myself being like, what's wrong with me? Why do I deserve this? And those are not questions I should be asking.
No.
That's not okay and that's not right. And, like, I'm all for, we've literally just talked about it, I'm all for putting work in before starting something. But, like, sure, it's, like, my own fault, because, like, I know the reality of the situation and I'm still going for it. But, like, you on the other end of that could at least, like, this is shitty, but, like, be a decent person and not participate. If you're because, like, I'm the one who's like, okay, well, like, I'm willing to work around that, even though it goes against my moral code of not doing that. Mm-hmm. But, like, all the rumors are true. I have a loose moral code. But, like, if you're not willing to actually do that, and you're, like, how are you gonna sit there with my best friend buying you drinks and tell her that you're going to go hook up with someone else tonight when you're spending the whole day, like, with me and flirting with me and, like, making me feel like I matter to you? Like, I literally have a song that starts off with, the cosmos are made up of matter, but I don't feel like I matter. I want to feel like I matter, and so they ask me, what do I think matters? And I say love, happiness, and a connection to one and all, right? We all deserve, I don't believe that we deserve something, but, like, I do think that, like, a human deserves to feel like they matter.
Right.
Like, should feel like they matter, and that behavior is just shitty.
All I have to say is, like, it ties back into, like, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah, 100%. When somebody shows you their true colors, you need to believe it.
Yeah.
You can't change people.
No.
So, like, I'm definitely in my feelings. And obviously, I need to just remove myself from that kind of a situation. But I'm trying to do it in a way where I don't turn cold again.
Right.
I don't want to let this moment
dictate how you move forward.
Like take me steps backwards in my opening up.
Right.
I do feel like I'm in more of a place now where I want to be receptive to somebody who's willing to be receptive and give and take with me and invest in me as much as I am willing to invest in them. And if that person in that situation shows up, I'm willing to be in a relationship and I'm willing to be like having those experiences.
Right.
But it has to be mutual and it has to be genuine.
I mean, I feel like I'm in the same situation. I'm definitely I feel like I'm finally back in a place where I could potentially have a healthy relationship. I've been open to it. Unfortunately, I've ran into something that's a very big pet peeve to me is love bombing, and I think it happens a lot within the community. People get super infatuated with somebody right off the bat, and it's constant attention and affection, and usually it's coming from a place love bombing is coming from a place where they're going to gain something from it, whether it's your attention, your affection.
So I'm being love bombed.
Yeah, probably.
But also, I'm sure that I come off like maybe I'm love bombing.
But love bombing has to be from a place where you are intentionally doing it to gain something.
Okay, so I'm being love bombed.
And I genuinely am an overly affectionate person and somebody that will pay you attention all fucking day long. But it's not coming from a place where I'm trying to get something for you. It's like there's nothing really to gain from me, for me. It's just that's naturally how I am. And honestly, people can recognize that in other individuals, and they realize that when they can play that back to you and it draws you in, and then they
Kind of take advantage of that vulnerability.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I do think that that's a big thing. I'm sure it's a thing in the world, but I think that especially in the queer community, because things are so sexually driven and most of our interactions happen in alcohol or drug infested environments, that, you know, a lot of it, I recognize the difference between, like, I can meet someone that I'm trying to invest in and I can meet someone I'm trying to fuck, and, like, they don't take away from each other, but
Right.
like, also, I mean, if you're really if you're real, okay, keep going.
In my past relationships, I 100% have been taken advantage of because they understand that that's how I function.
Yeah.
That I am a super affectionate person. I crave affection. I crave human interaction. I'm also, like, very, like, loving, touching. Like, that is, like, how I connect with a person. And you have to be super careful because there are people out there that will recognize that and they will use it when it's to their advantage. Like, they will draw you in, and when they don't care anymore, they'll let you go, but then they know exactly what to do to bring you back in, and it can be a very
Toxic situation.
terrible, horrible toxic cycle. And you have to recognize that about yourself, that, like, I am that person that can fall victim to people using my emotional vulnerability against me.
Absolutely.
And you have to, like, have that boundary up to be, like, recognize when somebody is doing that and no longer let them have that power over you.
I would say this honestly ties back into the trauma bonding. Is trauma bonding and love bombing go hand in hand? Because you need that something to reel them in and be like, you're a part of me, but then also it's like, here's all this love because I know I've just fucked up.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, are we there?
I came 10 minutes ago.
Well, on that note, I'm Whitney Stevens.
And I'm Yo-Yo Blackfire.
And this is Unstable.